What's up guys, and welcome back to Retro Gamer Gen X's Retro Gaming and Computing channel. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look inside of a Sega Game Gear. Now this is my Sega Game Gear and it's having some issues. The video doesn't work, the screen is real dim, and if you try to brighten it, it just puts these lines across it. I'll show you everything that it's doing here in a little bit. We'll put it here on the bench and I'll test it out and show you guys. But what we'll do is go ahead and open this up. I'll show you what's inside of the Sega Game Gear, what chips are inside of it and kind of what they do. And then we'll go ahead and do a montage of a full recap of this thing. And then we'll test it out and see if everything works. So let's go ahead and get started, guys. So here's the Game Gear here, guys. Let's go ahead and get this thing plugged in and I'll kind of show you what it's doing here. So I got to kind of do this one-handed because where my power brick is plugging into my bench, it'll fall out. But as you guys can see here, let me turn off the light. Now, I do have some sound, which is kind of amazing because sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But it is really, really low. It's not loud at all. And as you guys can see, this is the video we get, and if we try to increase the brightness, we start getting these lines across the screen and it's just all whacked out and weird. So this is definitely a problem with the capacitors. Now if we turn the screen all the way down and kind of give it a tilted angle like this, you can actually see it. But yeah, not functioning the way it should. So let's go ahead and get this thing torn apart, guys, and we'll take a look inside and see what's causing the issue. All right, guys, to take this thing apart is pretty simple. You just got to take your battery doors off there, and there's basically, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regular screws holding this thing together. So I've already basically taken all these screws out. I left the gamer bit one in, that way we could kind of test the system and make sure everything was functioning correctly. So we'll go ahead and take this gamer bit screw out and we'll pop this thing apart. Now these things are really easy. They just pop apart. You don't have to use any kind of tools to get them apart or anything besides just a screwdriver and a gamer bit. Let's go ahead and get this thing completely kind of taken apart so we can start working on it. Now these wire harnesses, they just pull right off, so you can just pull them off. This one here is probably the hardest, this little small one. But as you can see, there we go. We got it all taken apart. Two sides of the shell. Now, as you guys can see, there's basically 3 main boards on here. So you have your main motherboard right here. Then you have the power board over here. And then over here is your sound board. So essentially, we're going to be working on all this because we're going to do a full recap for the system here. But let's go ahead and take a look at the inside and kind of discuss these chips and what everything does in here. Let me zoom on in here and let's take a look at some of the parts on this thing. So here we have the cartridge port. So this is where your cartridge actually plugs in right there in the back of the Game Gear. Here we have where it says high voltage, be careful, all that kind of stuff. It's actually a fluorescent tube that backlights the screen. And this is what kills the Game Gear's batteries so tremendously much, is just the power that thing consumes. Then we have some of the ICs here. So this is IC1 right here. That is the CPU. So that's like the Z80 CPU that this thing uses. Then over here is IC2. This is the VDP, so the video display processor. This chip is IC3. I believe this is called the SCA. And what this does, this is basically the controller for the LCD screen. It also takes input from the Versus port that's on here, so you can play against other people. So it's like so really what this is like the input-output chip is what this thing does, the display video output chip. While this actually produces the video and all that, this actually puts it onto the screen. It takes care of that user port or that Versus port. And it also takes care of the controllers as well, guys. So the buttons and everything on the front here, start, the buttons, the D-pad, all that, that signal actually gets sent through here as well. So it actually takes care of that. So it's kind of like an input-output chip is really what it is. So over here we have IC number 4. That is the system RAM. So that's 8K of system RAM right here. And then on the opposite side of the board, like right on the bottom going this way, is going to be IC number 5. Now obviously you can't see it because we haven't taken the board out, which I don't plan on taking this board out, guys. I'm just going to go ahead and do the work right here. It'll be pretty simple to do without having to remove the whole board. But IC5 is underneath here, and that is the video RAM, and it's 32K of video RAM for the system as well. So essentially, guys, that's all the main chips here on the motherboard. Let's go ahead and go to this other board here. So as you guys can see here, this is the actual soundboard. So we have the volume control right here, the headphone jack right here as well, and then this is the audio amp chip for the Sega Game Gear right there, guys. Now if we cruise on over this way, this is the power board. So this is basically like a power supply board. So it filters the power, brings it down to the voltages you need, all that kind of stuff, and it distributes it to the rest of the system. It also I believe it has some kind of control capability for charging or something, and letting you know that's what this chip is for, letting you know when the batteries are dying and stuff like that, to let you know to basically replace the batteries. So there we go, guys. So all in all, that is pretty much the Game Gear here. So we have the two pieces, we have the main and then the sound and the power boards here. Well, with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and start the montage on getting this thing recapped. I'm sure everybody here has probably seen a million of these recap videos, but the biggest thing that you guys got to do is these have glue underneath them. So you have to take a pair of needle nose pliers and kind of wiggle them back and forth to break that glue loose. And then you can go ahead and lift the cap up and go ahead and desolder the legs off of it. Now, they no longer make these kind of caps. These have been discontinued. Gee, I wonder why, because they're leaky pieces of crap. So there's a lot of these boxy-like capacitors on the board here, on the main board. So what I'm going to do is just kind of show you real quick on how to replace these. So you get some needle nose, just kind of squeeze it and pull it up from the motherboard. Just kind of jiggle it and it'll pull up, and then take your finger and then just go back and forth to break the legs off. And that's the best way to get these caps out, guys. And as you can see here, it was definitely starting to leak. I mean, it wasn't bad yet, but it was definitely starting to leak. So good thing that we're replacing this before it got to the traces here. Now that black goo you see down there, that's just the glue from the factory. We're not going to remove it because I don't want to risk breaking the traces or anything. But next we'll put some flux down and put some fresh solder in and try to get these broken legs off here. Now we'll take some desoldering braid and go ahead and clean up the pads and get all this old solder and the new solder we just put down to mix it and get it off. So I use the leaded solder, guys. It really does the trick here, so especially a low temp stuff. Now go ahead and clean it up with the isopropanol. Get it all clean and shiny here. Now for some flux and some new solder on these nice shiny new pads. Alright guys, you're going to want to bend the legs on your capacitors kind of like this to be able to solder them onto the board. First you're just going to tack one of the legs down. And then Then you'll want to kind of adjust the other leg to fit over to the other pad. And basically the same thing, just tack this one down as well. And then I always reflow it with a little bit more solder just to make sure we got a good, nice, secure connection. And just clean it up with some ISO again, and that's about it for these capacitors. So these ones are actually pretty easy, not too hard. You guys shouldn't have too tough of a time doing these, unless you got a lot of leakage and you have to do a lot of trace repair. But let's go ahead and get on to the soundboard now. Alright guys, so here is the soundboard, and I can already see leakage underneath this one on the board. Now to get these off, I just twist them as I'm pushing in. Don't pull them, push in as you're twisting them. And eventually those little legs will break off and leave you just with a little plastic retainer on the bottom. And as you guys can see here, it's just got a ton of leakage coming out of that capacitor, and all the caps on this board were like this. So yeah, this soundboard is pretty much a wash. I found 4 broke traces on it off camera, and I'm still trying to diagnose what the heck is wrong with it, but I think that corrosion got into the amp chip and kind of killed it. So probably gonna get a new soundboard. Okay guys, so I've got it totally recapped now, and as you guys can see, this is basically all the capacitors that came off of this. Just a huge amount of capacitors. Now, I'm going to tell you guys something. I have already tested this off camera. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in for you guys and just kind of show you guys what is going on still, unfortunately. So, I don't know if you guys noticed in the little montage I had going on there, but the soundboard had a lot of leakage. I mean, a ton. It was just soaked in electrolytic and was really starting to corrode. I found 3 broke traces on the soundboard, and unfortunately, even after trying to fix those traces and everything that I did, I ended up taking the caps I put on there, the brand new ones, and I put some regular just electrolytic caps on there, and it still did not work properly. So let me show you what it's doing though. So you turn it on. We got a nice bright screen now, guys. As you guys can see, it does not do that line thing anymore. Let me turn off this light here so you guys can see. But it doesn't do the crazy line thing. It actually goes to all the way contrast like it should. And my God, it is just super, super bright now, guys. It's actually hard to pick up on the camera here. But yeah, it works just fine. But as you guys can see, I have the volume all the way up. Let me turn it back off and turn it back on again. And let's see if you guys can hear the music. I mean, it's still super, super, super low, guys. So what I'm going to end up doing is buying a third-party soundboard for this. They do make remake soundboards. And I'm just going to buy one of the new ones to put in here, and I'm pretty sure that's going to fix the issue with the sound, because the soundboard in here, like I said, just is in really bad shape, guys. But I am super happy to have this thing up and running to where I can at least see it and play it now, so that's a good thing. Yeah, I am super, super stoked, guys. As you guys can see, look, it works perfectly. Great looking screen again. Not going to complain. Now, I'm going to say that if anybody is going to try doing this recap thing on this system, it is time intensive, guys. It's not something that you're going to sit down and do in one shot unless you're like a crazy recap type of guy. I did a few caps, went to go do a few things, did a few caps, went to do a few things. And this process actually took me about 3 days to do. to recap this. Now, honestly, I could have probably sat down and got it done in, I don't know, probably about 5-6 hours or something, maybe even less than that. But I'm not one to sit down and just do things like that. I gotta take breaks. But yeah, guys, it looks like everything's good to go here. We got this back up and running. Yeah, that's about it here. So I just wanted to thank you guys for watching this, and hopefully you guys learned a little bit about this recapping thing. I know there's a ton of these videos about recapping this, where people go for like a whole hour just showing each cap and how it's done. Unfortunately, I wasn't going to do that. It's montage time, guys. But I hope you guys did enjoy it and seeing the inside of this thing and kind of discussing what chips are in it and how it works. If you guys do like the content, don't forget to hit that like, that subscribe, and that notification bell. That way you get notifications every time I drop new content like this. And my next video coming up here, guys, is going to be about the PC Engine that I just got. So keep a lookout for that. That'll be coming up here soon. And also, we have the Game Gear look at. I actually am writing the script for it right now as we're speaking. Well, not as I'm speaking, but as this video is going up, I'm in the middle of doing the script for it. So that should be up probably by the end of March as well. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have a great one. Peace out, y'all.
Game over, man. It's game over.